You're listening to the European Parliamentary Research Service podcast on lab meat.
Growing animals to produce meat comes with heavy environmental costs, but what if all our meat were grown in a lab?
Could this be an answer to our environmental problems? And what would farmers say? We'll give you all these answers in a minute.
Did you know that 30% of the world's ice-free land surface is used to raise the chickens, pigs and cattle that we eat?
Yes, you heard right. And this has an enormous environmental impact. Besides land degradation and chemical pollution, livestock production is responsible for nearly 15% of global greenhouse emissions and uses 1/3 of the world's fresh water.
So there may be no other single human activity with a bigger impact on the planet than the raising of livestock. And with the expected rise in global population, things are set to get even worse. So could meat grown in the lab be the solution?
Well, it is certainly an option. Lab-grown meat uses stem cell technology, placing cells from a live animal in a growth medium where they can develop independently.
At first, this was a very expensive procedure, but costs have been falling to a point where lab-grown meat is actually becoming commercially viable.
And proof of this is China's $300 million trade deal with Israel to import lab-grown meats.
Okay, so let's assume that in the future we can grow all our meat in the lab. How would this affect farmers?
Agriculture and food production account for over 4% of the EU's GDP and over 8% of jobs. And farming is often the only alternative in many rural areas, so any changes would have a deep impact on these communities.
But it could have a positive impact on our health, as meat grown in the lab wouldn't require the use of antibiotics and could be controlled to optimise its nutritional content. So what should the EU do? Well,
considering its potential environmental and health benefits, EU policymakers could encourage the development of lab-grown meat while also helping farmers to find new jobs, for instance, from growing animals to growing crops, and diversify rural economies.
There's also an opportunity for EU countries to tap into new markets within the food industry and create new, highly qualified jobs.
The potential for lab-grown meat to conquer our markets is certainly there, but will it also succeed in conquering our stomachs and minds?
You're listening to the European Parliamentary Research Service podcasts.